Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Tech Tuesday sessions. Broadcasted sponsor is the CSE. This week, we will be featuring private companies and one public company within the drone technology space. And without further ado, I will introduce Mark Francis.
Thank you, Grace. And to everyone online for joining us today, as with every Tuesday starting 15 minutes after market close, typically with 3 private companies at various stages from North America and abroad. Next week, September 29th, we will have Best of Summer. You really do want to catch this one. Chosen as the 4 best presentations out of the 18 done in summer: Onboard Dynamics, Botanico, AutoNexus, and Woven will present again. Our objective in running Tech Tuesdays is twofold. First, to help technology companies with increasing traction to gain relevant visibility. And second, to help capital markets players by introducing interesting companies, focusing on whether the technology will have commercial traction and why, and also providing new knowledge of what is happening in innovation. For you as attendees, we do ask that you share ideas and your feedback with our presenters, including leads, possibly funding after due diligence, referral of someone with unique applicable expertise, or maybe even a potential strategic relationship. You can find their contact information in the chat board. With respect, we might refrain from giving management advice unless we are truly experts in the company's particular field. And please, let's not treat our presenting companies as marketing targets for services. Some housekeeping matters. You will note a red Reconnect tab at the top of your screen. If you lose audio, just click it and you will be reconnected. In the event that there are technical problems, we may hit the restart, in which case there is no action required by you, as the system will reconnect everyone. We aim to run 45 minutes, and the chat board may be utilized to ask serious questions. If the question moderator has time, she will get to them. Note our disclaimer. This presentation is for information only and is not a solicitation to make an investment in either shares or debt or to buy or sell stock. CSE and Mark Francis as session host, i.e. yours truly, make no representation about any of these companies. If you are interested in the investor pitch, please connect with the companies directly in order to get detailed information. Today, each company will have a 7-minute presentation with their PowerPoint. When you see my face appear, the company has 15 seconds to wrap up. After all companies have presented, we will move to a panel discussion with Q&A, today led by Sarah Mohanjary of Blue Sky Equities. Today we have as presenters Ashish Malik, CEO of CSE-listed B Vectoring; Josh Ogden, CEO and co-founder of AVSS, nominated by Valhalla Angels; and Raviv Kula, CEO and co-founder of FruitSpec of Israel, nominated by Zenovar and Shaul Tseban, a world-leading agriculture technology consultant. Let's start with the original drone. Back when I was just a wee lad, the term drone meant a male bee with a particular role. All the drones knew what to do. So let's start with Ashish Malik. Ashish was VP of Global Marketing for Biologics at Bayer Crop Science, responsible for managing the portfolio of biological assets. Prior to Bayer, Senior VP of Global Marketing at AgriQuest, and before that, Head of Commercial Operations for the Home Care Division at Syngenta. An engineer, Mr. Malik serves on the board of the Biological Products Industry Alliance, BPIA. Ashish?
Great, thanks so much, Mark. Hopefully everybody can see me and hear me. So BVT is a agricultural technology company that is trying to solve what I believe is one of the biggest issues that every one of us that walk on this planet have to deal with for the generations to come. And that is, how do we feed a growing population in an environmentally responsible and sustainable way? The expectation is that by 2050, there will be 10 billion people, the population of the Earth, and at the same time, arable land is going to be declining. So what we need to do is find a way to double the productivity of every acre of farmed land in an environmentally responsible way. So less land, less waters, and less chemicals. One of the things that's driving this increase in productivity is a massive shift from chemical products that have been used in the last 50 and 100 years to increase crop productivity over to biologicals. And these are products that are derived from a natural source. These are products that can replace synthetic pesticides, synthetic fertilizers, and generally a much more sustainable way of farming. BVT fits in to this shifting trend away from chemicals. And what we are actually doing is developing a new crop productivity tool that is geared towards increasing farmers' profitability. We combine biological products that once they reach and are applied to a plant have a beneficial effect and help the plant fight different diseases and increase yields, together with an all-new delivery system. Traditional ways of applying plant treatment agents is by using spray technologies or seed treatments, but we are commercializing a system that uses managed beehives, whether they're bumblebee hives or honeybee hives, for delivering these biological plant treatment agents in a very targeted way directed to the flowers of the crops. By combining these two products, we have demonstrated that a farmer can enjoy 30% higher yields. We've demonstrated that in multiple crops in different countries around the world. It is a very precise way, a very targeted way of delivering the plant treatment agent directly to the flower, which results in the reduction of the active ingredient that's applied on a crop. And of course, we're talking about the application of a biological product, so we can reduce chemicals by as much as 98%. So this is the only natural precision agricultural tool available. The way the system works is we have a dispenser system that is placed on the exit of bumblebee hives or honeybee hives. And through this dispenser system, when the bees are leaving the hive, they walk across a powder which contains microbial strains that are bee safe and totally organic. And the bees pick this powder up on their bodies and they fly as they forage, as they want to forage and collect pollen and nectar from a flower. They fly with these biological products on their bodies. And when they reach the flower and they bat their wings to try to free the pollen from the flower, the microbial strains land on the plant tissue, they colonize the plant tissue, thereby imparting the plant protection properties to the crop itself. The bees in the meantime return to the hive, and the whole cycle repeats itself constantly during the blooming period of the crop. We have developed this system over a number of different years. The technology came out of the University of Guelph. As a company, we have been doing trials and demos, and now we are commercial. And we have developed a system which has over 60 patents granted on a worldwide basis, another 35 or so are at patent pending stage. We have a patent around a proprietary strain of a biological fungicide called Clonostachys rosea strain CR7. We also have patents around delivery systems that have been developed for bumblebee hives as well as honeybee hives. And these are represented by the white circles on this slide. And we are extending our business by licensing this technology to look at third-party biocontrol agents, which could be delivered through our bee dispensers, which will allow us to control multiple diseases and pests on the crop through a process called stacking, when you can actually deliver multiple microbes through that one trip the bee makes. We're also extending our business by taking our proprietary CR7 strain and developing more traditional foliar and street treatment uses for non-flowering areas. The benefit of the bee vectoring system is shown on this slide. We have demonstrated that over a 2.5-month strawberry season, we can save the farmer and the crop itself by reducing by 1/200th the amount of product that's applied to the flower. So on a traditional spray regimen, a farmer will apply 4 kilograms of chemical pesticides over the course of those 2.5 months. With the BVT system, we are only using 20 grams of product. So there's the 1/200th ratio. And oh, by the way, we're talking about a biological, totally safe product as opposed to a conventional potentially toxic chemical fungicide. So that's the real value proposition of this technology. Our business model relies on partnerships with beekeepers. There are commercial beekeepers that we utilize to reach the grower. We partner with commercial bumblebee companies that actually manufacture commercial bumblebee hives. But at the end of the day, our target customer is always the grower. So we are focusing on bringing our technology and getting value and revenue from the growers around the world. But our partners and our distribution channel, if you will, are beekeepers or the bumblebee companies. Our product is a registered biological fungicide, and this is extremely important. CR7 obtained the US EPA approval last August, and this is significant because it gives us credibility in the eyes of the grower, and it allows us to actually sell and maximize the value capture for the company. We have demonstrated the value of this technology over multiple years. This is an example of blueberry crops where a farmer has now adopted our technology on 100% of their acres. We are expanding the scope of our business by looking at additional crops, delivery methods. We have started geographic expansion as well. And eventually, as we look at the next 3 years, we see the value creation drivers of our technology around additional regulatory approvals, validation with growers in multiple countries, and ultimately in-licensing of additional products and product line extensions.
Thank you, Ashish.
All right.
Very good.
Thanks, Mark.
And now Josh Ogden. Before helping start AVSS in 2017, Josh graduated from the University of New Brunswick, was the co-founder, CEO of Castaway Golf, worked as a nomadic technology management consultant, and assisted early-stage companies secure non-dilutive financing. Josh, over to you.
Thanks, Mark. Can you hear me okay? I assume so, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So my name is Josh Ogden, as Mark had said. I'm CEO of AVSS, Aero Vehicle Safety Solutions. So really important to understand is we're helping enabling the safe use of commercial drones. A simple analogy is we're like a seatbelt airbag company, but for commercial drones. And again, focusing on the idea of commercial drones, we don't focus on the consumer drones that are $1,000, $2,000. We're talking about aircraft that cost $10,000 to $150,000, and that are really the explosive growth driver of the industry today. And in this industry, what we're seeing is the drone used in two ways. One way is the drone as a tool. It's for the dirty, dull, dangerous jobs. It's helping fight COVID in India, in the US, as well as it's helping the industrial companies save tremendous money, for example, on asset inspections, such as Shell in the right corner. As well, drones are being used as a mechanism to deliver goods, whether that's your burrito delivery or whether that's your time-sensitive medical care. So drones are really, the commercial side is where we play. And with our product, what we've built is something called a parachute recovery system. Parachute recovery system has an MSRP of $3,400 to $6,500 USD, gross margins 50 to 70%. As well, what's unique with our technology as far as this specific sector is going is we're the only one with annually recurring revenue with these parachute pods. New rules state that the end users after a parachute deployment can't repack. And this is where we're coming in, and we've really focused on separating those systems from day one and really making our customers happy, because it means that they don't disrupt their workflow. For example, one of our competitors, you got to ship the system back to Israel and wait, a couple of weeks for that repacking. As far as distribution, right now in North America and Europe, we have the #1 distribution. Our company was founded in 2017, and we just began really penetrating this market last September, and we have shipments going out this month. So we're really happy with the growth that we've experienced in these key markets. As far as partners and how we grow, we focus on two platforms, DJI, which is the global leader. They own about 80% of the market, and then FLIR, which is a high-end industrial drone. We're financed through investors such as from Valhalla, as well as other angel group members. And we're actually the only parachute company in the world that's received venture capital funding out of the drone fund. This is a venture capital fund out of Japan. They've made over 40 investments exclusively in the drone industry. And we closed this round of financing in May, so just in the middle of COVID. And then some of our other partners for third-party testing. So for our product to be used on a drone, you just can't slap a parachute on any drone. You have to go through this robust testing regime that's north of $100,000 just to go through it on each drone, and as well as some legal representation for dealing with waivers in certain countries, and then some partners to really augment our solution for our customers. Since 2017, we've been able to do this with about 2.25 million, and we've got a pretty good ratio. As Mark had mentioned, my previous background was working with tech companies and helping with non-dilutive financing. In our company, we do have that hockey stick growth. We're experiencing 10 times growth 20 times growth this year, and then expecting to launch 220 products for 600,000 in revenue, and kind of growing all the way through. But again, the reason for this presentation was to talk about what is the commercial strategy that enables AVSS to take off and really grow in this industry sector that's really disrupting a lot of status quo. And so when we look at commercialization and what we've done over our product roadmap is, as entrepreneurs, we believe that it's problem identification first, looking at regulatory, looking for those barriers to entries and building that core product out. And then we focused on us over the last 2 years is getting that internal testing, third-party testing, and just generating revenue. So these first, 3.5 years has been really dedicated to building the right product that could scale instead of rushing out and just trying to generate quick wins. We want to focus on the long-term scalability of the company. And this is where now we're starting to scale into new verticals. Our first product took us 14 months to finally from decision to commercialize. And now their second product, which you'll see later on, it's taken us, 4.5 months. So we're really getting that speed ramping up. And these upcoming years is really focused on production refinement and starting generating revenue through SaaS. And then as we go down the road, really commercializing it and finding those vertical integration opportunities and diversifying our product. So when we look at AVSS and what we've done is that problem identification of a regulatory issue. So one thing that with commercial drones that's been identified is they weren't reliable enough. And it's really important to understand that in the drone industry, we fall within civil aviation, which means people are responsible for making sure planes don't fall out of the sky. And so we fall within that regulatory regime and testing requirement for reliability, which means there's barriers to entry and there's more robust than a simple tech product that can ship it and fix it later, which you really commonly see in the SaaS world. As well, you can see from a regulatory perspective that over the last few years, you're only starting to see people allowed to fly drones over top people because it's not safe and considered. So when we're building this, we're really focusing on building a solution that's going to meet these requirements, because our core features actually have implications for real life. For example, we have something called the flight termination system. What it does is it prevents laceration. So the prop's spinning and this child was hit by a drone in the blade and clearly caused damage to his face. As well, we have automatic detection of drones and of failing. And so this was a case in Japan where 6 people were sent to hospital because the drone was crashing. And then as well, sometimes these drones lose link and they just kind of drift away. They're called flyaways, actually. And again, with our solution, we've got core features such as the manual trigger that can allow an operator to go in excess of 2 kilometers to be able to kill the power to the drone so it doesn't end up crashing to someone's house. And this is where AVSS is that safety element and completing our own testing. And I think these photos, hopefully some people get a laugh, is, we have to go through these internal testing. And this was part of our commercialization plan, is really focusing on all the elements so that when Amazon's flying over your head, that if it fails, it's not going to kill you. So we do high altitude testing, which sometimes results in drones and trees. We also do severe weather testing. This is examples of us on the far left drop testing a parachute for an 80-kilogram drone in the middle of winter and whiteout conditions. We collect flight data, and sometimes the drone, not even with our system on it, we're just analyzing how the drone normally flies, and sometimes they fail. And then sometimes we're testing out, if you deploy a drone parachute at a certain height, how far it goes. And this is where, again, this robust testing needed for the commercial drone industry. And with civil aviation, they want to see that, and has enabled us to really launch these 3 products and scale our business. And at that, I will end. And in the presentation, there is a a video which I'll share in the chat just so we can keep going with the timelines for Mark.
Thank you very much, Josh, and you hit on all the main points. Very good.
Thanks.
And now our last presenter, Raviv Kula. Before founding FruitSpec, Raviv was holding various marketing and sales positions in Silent Communication and LiveLens, and then a senior executive role in Comverse. Raviv is an experienced executive, an expert in business strategy, people, and is market-oriented. He holds a master's degree in hyperspectral remote sensing from Bar Ilan University in Israel. And Raviv, we appreciate you joining us late in the evening, 11:15 p.m., now 11:30 there in Tel Aviv. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and hi, everyone. FruitSpec provides accurate early season fruit yield estimation, and it solves the problem of the overall fruit market value chain. Any business decision that is happening in this market is related to the amount of fruit available in the orchard. Currently, surveys are inaccurate. It's about 65% accurate. And if you take it to the equivalent to Amazon, it's like a full industry working without an inventory to the warehouse. Nobody really knows how many fruits they have in the orchard, and they still need to make business plan. They still need to make logistics plan. Everything is based on the number of fruits in the orchard. So how do we provide this accuracy? If you want to come early in the season, you have to be available with some technology that allows you to detect green fruits among the green leaves, because the beginning of the season, the fruits are green. So we use a hyperspectral technology with hyperspectral sensor that are scanning the orchard from the ground. Data is uploaded to our clouds, and then all the algorithms are applied to this data, and we provide the data to our customer. This is an example of how we scan the orchard. We have over here, we have two hyperspec sensor running on an ATV inside the orchard, scanning both sides of the line in the same time. Our aim is to be able to provide our customer, the packing houses of the world, with the visibility to the number of fruits they have and size of the fruits that will enable them to turn it into revenue. So at the beginning of the season, 6 months before harvest, they can speculate how much money they're going to get from each block in their area. This is kind of reports that we provide. It's messed up, so I will skip it. An example, this is a block in California. You can see over here a heat map that shows the distribution of the number of fruits. You see I have a lot of fruits over here and less fruits over here. And this is the size of the fruit. So the size of the fruit, as you have a lot of fruits, tends to be smaller. Once you have less amount of fruit, the fruits tends to be bigger. Using the data that we have and a sophisticated algorithm that we built, we can predict the amount and the size of the fruit by the end of the season. So this is the base scan that we scan the orchard, and this is the algorithm that we provide. So the customer will know how many cartons per size is going to pack. And this is the conversion to the revenue from each block that I mentioned before. We currently support citrus, apples, stone fruits, and grapes. We are going to support June 2020. Also avocados, mangoes, and pomegranates, which covers a huge amount of the fruits available in our target markets like California, Washington, Florida, Chile, South Africa, China, Australia, and part of Southern Europe. As I said, the technology means that you need to see the green fruit. So I have a few examples over here. You see an orange tree, and it's very difficult to see the fruits. You can see one fruit over here, but those are the fruits that are available in this picture, and we just need to count it. The same goes for grapes. This is coming from Spain. You can see the clusters at the bottom sides of the vein. So we can count the number of clusters using our technology. And the same goes for apples. You have it, any circle over here, it means that we have a fruit in it. Some example from grapes. This is the berry count in grapes. Again, this is something that we provide to our customers. We currently located mainly in California, serving the largest customers, mainly citrus over there. We are expanding now to Washington, already been in Florida, serving customers. Our business model is price per hectare that we serve. We are going to start our second season now in Chile and South Africa with quite an assortment of customers over there. We're going to open an office in Australia next season. Europe is quite blocked for us due to the COVID, but we are having quite an extensive activity in grapes in Spain and Italy, and we are looking to expand it into stone fruits, mainly in Spain. We also have a small operation in China, but everything is based on the accuracy that we provide. And currently, accuracy means that you have to be above 90%. This is our promise to customers. The current rate that we have is about above 95%, but we are okay to say to our customers that this is what we give you above 90%. And by that, we are changing the way that they are making business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raviv. You were about 15 seconds early. No, 30 seconds early. Thank you very much. And now we will bring back all of our panelists for the Inquisition. And today we have as question moderator, Sarah Mohanjeri, a senior analyst at Blue Sky Equities and a specialist in early stage companies. It is always helpful to me to hear Sarah's insights and questions. So school is in, and Sarah, you are in charge.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you so much, all three presenters today. You did a great job. So I would start the first question with what are the common characteristics of your ideal customer, and how do you describe the most valuable customers? Let's go with Ashish, and then Raviv and Josh.
Okay, so our customers are farmers. So when we're launching a new technology, what we have to identify, and since it's also a new growing practice, we actually want to identify the farmers that are early adopters of new technology. So farmers have different, demographic segments. And so we want to actually identify the early adopters and also the ones that are kind of the bellwether customers that have a large following. So if you do a successful demo with them, you know that the word's going to spread. So once we've identified the target crop and the region that we want to trial, we have to then, through phone calls and asking different distributors and growers, who are those bellwether customers, and then you approach them and start the sales cycle with them.
Raviv.
We target, when you look at the value chain, starting with the input company, going into the farmer growers, packing houses, distributor, retailers, we are targeting the first commercial entity in this value chain, which is the packing house. We we just go into every packing house, and usually we get a paid pilot. From our point of view, we don't do pilots. We do commercial activity, and sometimes the customer can characterize the activity that he's doing with us as, as a small portion of his land, but it's a pilot from his side, not from our side. We provide full service paid to those customers.
Okay, Josh.
Yeah, so for us, we have two types of customers. One thing that we have to be cognizant of is where the drone industry is at and how it's mobilizing. And so today we really focused on the faster revenue stream of popular drone models, and that gives us strong revenue, and it's a really growth driver of the industry. But as the technology improves and more automation is included and more drone delivery is accepted, we're going to be seeing that more often. So for us, while we're working on our customers today, we're also building relationships with the customers who are going to be doing the drone delivery, such as a Drone Delivery Canada would be an ideal customer, or a Zipline where they're doing fire delivery. So this is where we focus on those two avenues and focusing on and balancing today versus the future.
Okay, thank you. So my next question would be around the business model. Can you explain your business model? How do you charge your customers? And if you can, just break down some of the unit economics, like the cost of the gross margin, the cost of the hardware or chemicals that you use. Let's start with Raviv, and then go with Josh, and then Ashish.
So our price business model is a price per hectare that we serve. There is a price per variety of foods, and the price changes with the value of the food. So oranges for juice are at the bottom, and let's say in citrus, tangerine are the highest number. We charge per acre. We charge about 65% per fresh oranges, and $85 per acres for tangerines. Apples and stone fruits are about $100 per acres, and table grapes, it's about 120. And this is how we work. It's a full service. We don't sell hardware. We come with our equipment, and we scan the orchard, provide the data afterwards. So the customer does not have to buy. There is no CapEx investment from his side. It's just a service.
Okay, thank you. Josh? You're muted, Josh.
Hey, sorry about that. Yeah, so we sell a hardware unit that's from $3,400 to $6,500 MSRP. In addition to that, we have a recurring revenue because of regulatory requirement of the parachute repacking. So similar to your fire extinguisher that needs to be serviced every couple of years, our parachute needs to be repacked every year. As well, we have a SaaS component to our product that working kind of just with some niche customers on the tracking, and that goes back into more of like a telco fleet management tracking solution that has some recurrent revenue opportunities.
Okay,
So
and
for-
can you
So-
sorry, for Josh, the cost of hardware, how much is the cost for building this hardware?
Yeah, so our gross margins, depending if we sell direct or through the dealers, are 50 to 70% gross margins. So there's strong margins in the high value product.
Okay, and now Ashish.
Yeah, so sure. So we are, as I mentioned earlier, we invoice directly to the farmers, and as a Raviv's model it's similar to what we do. We actually price our system per acre here in the U.S. And based on the crop that the farmer is growing, we figure out how many beehives they need to manage the flowers on that acre of land. So for example, in strawberries and blueberries, which has been our initial launch crop, the pricing is around $250 per acre, and we will place 2 hives per acre. Using that kind of math, the economics translate to about a 60 to 65% gross margin once we have reached a certain volume. In our initial launch, we got 40% gross margins, but that was with very small quantities. So expect the gross margins to improve as we scale the business.
Okay, thank you. My third question is about the competitive landscape and how do you stack up against your competitors in the market? So let's start from Josh and then go with Ashish and Raviv.
Yeah, so for us, our landscape, it's quite an interesting one in the drone industry where, the drone industry was kicked off by hobbyists and that innovation was really grown from that sector. And so from that, though, there's been a lot of companies who haven't been able to mature. They haven't been able to build out their teams and technology stack. So although there's about a dozen companies in the world that are doing parachutes for drones, there's only really 4 or 5 that meet these third-party standards. Again, going to do this third-party standard, each time you do one on a drone, you're spending over $100,000. So it really weeds out the market. And so our approach was to build a scalable platform and enable us so that when our competitors try to compare against us, we beat them on weight, we beat them on price. We also beat them on stronger margins for our dealers. Our gross margins are, dealers making 40%, where some of our competitors are only offering 20% to their dealers. In addition, our workflow disruption isn't an item that has to be worried about with the parachute pod. So when we stack up against the competitors, pricing for all our customers and end users and workflow disruption, we would be number one. And that's where we see our growth in becoming the number one dealer as far as in North America and Europe for this vertical.
Okay, Ashish.
So for BVT, what we're talking about is changing a grower practice. A grower is currently spraying chemical pesticides on their crops. So we're trying to replace the chemical sprays with the use of the BVT system. So you can think about our competitors as being the companies that provide chemical products to the growers. The interesting thing is a lot of these chemical companies, and these are big companies like Bayer or BASF or Syngenta, Monsanto, which is now part of Bayer. A lot of these companies that are traditional chemical companies are now also biological companies, just because the whole industry is shifting that way. So we have to be a little bit careful about, how we compete, because the way we're competing could be with a company that ends up being a partner down the road for us as well. So we compete on a product by product level. So we look at the products that a blueberry farmer is using, and we go in there and try to replace and substitute the products that they're using, rather than thinking about it on a company by company basis.
Okay, thank you. Raviv?
There is some competition in our area. Most of the, part of it, we can divide it into two types of companies. Some companies that are serving the farming department within the pack house organization. So they are doing precision agriculture or something like that. And the customer tells them, no, but yield estimation is the most important things that I need. And they are also doing that. And since they are not specialized in yield estimation, and they cannot use our technology because it is patent, they don't have sufficient results. There are some other companies that are doing that in different phases along the season. There are some companies that are doing yield estimation during blooming, but they cannot predict what will be the total yield because blooming is too early. And there are some companies that are doing that while the fruit are already changed color from green to something else, like orange, red, light green, that it's easy to detect the fruits in a normal camera to use. But then it's the end of the season, it's 4 to 6 weeks before harvest, and the value that they are giving our customers are very low. So we are unique because we are doing that very early in the season, an ability to predict what will happen by the end of the season. And of course, the patent that we have protects us quite heavily from others to use our technology.
Okay, thank you. So my next question would be for Ashish. So you talk about your initial launch with blueberry farms, And can you just talk about the details of pilot project, what kind of results you get, and quantify this, the results you get from that pilot project, like how much yield improvement you see?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just give you a typical example, and we actually had it in a slide deck for this one grower. So remember what I said earlier. You want to identify the bellwether growers, the ones that have the reputation of being a leader in their community, and it ends up typically being a 3-year cycle, a 3-season cycle, I should say. And in the first season, especially when you're launching a brand new production tool, you probably will end up giving the farmer a few. In our case, we gave a few beehives for free so that they could, quote unquote, kick the tires. They put them on their farming operation. They made sure it was compatible with the rest of the operation. There was no negative effect from that first season. Then in the second season, they liked what they saw in the first. They made a small purchase, and they would place it on one field out of maybe 6 or 7 fields that they might have under operation. And at that second season, they started measuring how that one field did in comparison with the rest of their operation, and also in comparison with what that field did in the prior year. And in our example, they actually saw a 28% yield increase compared to the rest of their operation. So that means 28% more revenue. You can think about it from that perspective. Very excited what they saw, and they basically committed at that point that in the third season they would adopt this technology across 100% of their operation. So in 2020, we actually completed 100% of their operation. They've already demonstrated, they've already told us that they got the best yield ever. And in 2021, they've already contracted with us to use it once again at 100% of their operation.
Okay, thank you. So, and Josh, so my question for you is around this regulation, and how do you see using parachutes as part of the legal requirement to fly drones in the future? And what's your take on the regulation shift to address the safety concern which exists in the market?
Yes.
Have you done any initiative in that regard?
Yeah, so when we started the company, that was part of our, I guess, bet. So in 2015, 2016, France and Chile were really the only countries that were implementing rules on parachutes. It's no different than when seatbelts were introduced. Not every country adopt them right away. And what we've seen since 2019 is that we've had the US and Canada introduce legislations and rules and flying commercial drones over top people that require parachute recovery systems. As well, in Europe, starting in December, new rules will come into effect, which will take a 2-year period to be fully implemented, but they also will require parachutes for point reduction to enable that drone delivery in like the urban core. So what we're seeing is that shift, because ultimately civil aviation does not want a drone falling out of the sky and hurting someone. So this is where the parachute's the only way to reduce that kinetic energy. And what we're seeing is more and more countries come on board. So it's the shift has started, and we're just going to see it getting stricter. But these stricter regulations as far as technology stack will now enable more drones to be able to fly in the sky.
Okay, thank you. So, and Raviv, so how conservative are your customers about change in this area? So, like, how do you like, for most of the farmers, they just want to be in their farms, they rather like to go and use computer vision. So what's your take on that issue?
I mean, it was a surprise to me to see the willingness of the industry to accept innovation. In my background, I'm coming from communication, high tech. And over there, in order to get a pilot, you needed about 18 months of working with a very low-level project manager that will put it in the budget for next 12 months, and then you will have a pilot, and then you have a sale. And most of our sales are about 40 minutes talk with a packing house. We don't need to explain the merit of why and how It's something that they have been expecting for the last 20 years for somebody to solve. I just had a call this your morning, my evening with a new customer in Florida, and the end of the season, the end of this session was that they say, "Thank you for solving it. We've been waiting for so many years for somebody to provide this kind of a technology." So the acceptance is very high, but to be cautious, there is a difference between entering into innovation and giving the overall acres that the customer have for us to use. So there is a gap over here. We are 3 years in sales, and this year we got the first customers that they gave us everything. Okay, so they want to see the accuracy on the first year. They will increase the area that they will provide us in the second year. And the third year, if we are accurate on the first and the second, and as I said, in our case, it's paid, they will go and say, okay, do everything. So they are willing to accept new innovation. They are very open to that, but they are cautious with the amount of acres that they are providing year over year.
Okay, thank you. So I'm curious about your experience about the funding growth. So how was your experience look like in raising capital as a private company? Let's start with you, Ashish, and then Josh and Raviv.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're actually a public company, but I'll talk about the early years and then transition to today. So in the early years, the company was funded by our founder for the first 2-3 years. And that was used primarily to secure the patents and just do the initial engineering design for our dispenser systems. We went public in 2015. And so the last 5 years, we have raised about $16 million cumulatively through a series of private placements, mostly through the retail broker network within Canada. We're at a point now where, since we've got regulatory approval and we are now commercial, that the conversation is shifting to institutional investors. And at the beginning of this year, I started talking to investment bankers and a different network of potential investors, family offices, and early stage ESG funds. And that's where our capital is going to come from as we move forward.
Okay, Josh?
Yeah, so when we started the business, we self-funded it. We had some capital from a previous exit, and so we kind of kicked off it ourselves, gave ourselves a runway, and then from there, leveraging the different grant options, as well as we've received institutional investment from a previous investor, 6 months in when we started, and then we've been able to raise capital through the angel network privately, as well as, again, a couple of venture capital firms. So primarily leveraging that investment to then get non-dilutive financing, as well as some debt, so grants, as well as some debt financing through some venture debt sources based off shred credits, and kind of building out kind of a mechanism in which we have some additional capital, leverage it with some debt, and then leverage it with some grants and really extend that runway. And now we're actually moving, towards that cash flow positive. So additional capital will be needed for growth, but not to sustain daily operations.
Okay, Raviv, as a public company.
We are a startup, so we raised so far just below $5 million in 2 rounds. The establishment of the company, in the first year, it was bootstrapped by the co-founders. And then we got the seed money. It was about $700,000. And then $4 million about 2 years ago. I don't sense a problem with the COVID with raising money. Yes, you cannot meet people in the same room, but the anticipation that the market has is to continue to invest. We will probably go for another round beginning of 21. We still have money till the end of 21, but we want to make the next jump of doing the digital revolution of the packing houses. And for that, we will need some more capital.
Okay, thank you. So, Josh, how long would proof of concept take for your customers, or would say enterprise customers for you?
Yeah, so when we have a new customer come in, I'll focus more on the drone manufacturers. The drone as a tool kind of retrofit model is a different model where they wouldn't do a proof of concept exclusively with us. They'd be doing it for the whole drone program, and there's enough data out there for them to build their business case, and our dealers do that work. When we're working with a new manufacturer, and depending on the size of the drone, it can be done in 12 to 16 weeks. And basically, we have a sequence where send us your drone, we'll do all the integration, all the testing, we'll give you the data sets. If it's good, we go to third-party testing, which they pay for, and then we're delivering units, 30 to 60 days after that. So it's a rather quick process.
Okay. And Ashish, so on the last slide, not the last slide, the one before the last slide, like I couldn't see any timeline for the key value creation drivers. So
Yeah,
can you put some timelines on that?
absolutely. So it is a 3-year time horizon. What you've got there is in the near years, in the near months, I guess, out of the 3 years, you'll see milestones associated with new regulatory approvals or grower validation in new jurisdictions and new regions, if you will. Then in the latter years, you'll start seeing product innovation coming in when we introduce more products through delivery through our BVTs, our B delivery systems, as well as the foliar and seed treatment formulation. So product line extensions towards the latter end of that window, 3-year window, and regulatory approvals and confirmation of grower demos in the nearer term. It's a bit difficult to predict exactly when, because we're dealing with bureaucratic regulatory approval agencies, particularly in a COVID-19 scenario. Timelines are kind of shifting on us, so we have to be aware of that.
Fair enough. Thank you. So, and Raviv, my question is about like how often and how long our farmers should spend time on the platform.
It's a very good question. What we provide is a report, and the current report that we provide, it's giving them how many beans that they are going to harvest from any block. Usually they take this data and put it as an input in their own management software. So currently there is no further interaction until next year. We are going to launch, beginning of next year, we're going to launch a yield management model that we see a gap in the way that the customers are using our data. And we believe that current commercial software does not provide the right decision-making tools to make in order to fill the promises of increasing profitability for the customer. So we're going to provide those tools, and then it's going to be based on a platform that we currently don't provide our customer. And then we believe that it's going to be a daily interaction with customer.
Thank you so much, Raviv, Ashish, and Josh for answering all of my questions. It's over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you indeed to our presenters, Raviv Kula, Fruit Spec, and for joining us. It's now midnight for you over there, and it's your high holidays, so we really appreciate you coming. Ashish Malik, B Vectoring, and Josh Ogden, AVSS. And our question moderator, Sarah Mohanjeri. I know that you spend a lot of time and preparation work to come up with the right, precise questions, so thank you, Sarah. Thank you to you, our attendees, for your time today. Go to the company websites, learn more about these companies, and if you have a lead for them, do connect. Now let's bring on Grace Pedota of our own CSE for closing remarks. Grace.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us during another Tech Tuesday session for this content and a lot of more great content that the CSE provides. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, CSE TV. I posted it in the chat board. So yeah, thank you all for joining.